Let's go into a little bit about data loss. I think that the loss of data is probably a top concern, especially at enterprise level organizations today, because there's so much of it. And I know that you're a big fan of accumulating all of your data so that you can get the most value out of it before you move forward with any plans to alter or change the way that you're currently managing it. So let's talk about best practices from Brooke Bartos about preventing and being proactive about data loss.
Yeah, I mean, that's like you mentioned, that was a big thing on our presentation is before you start overwriting or deleting or changing anything, look at what you already have because there could be a lot of value there. And
Sure.
if you're too quick to rush, you could overlook something that could be very valuable in how you're looking at what revenue you're bringing to the table.
That's right.
And
how it gets to the table.
And how it gets to the table. Yeah. But that's also where that alignment comes in too, is not only thinking about how marketing uses that, but how sales uses that, and then how your data analysts use that.
Okay.
Because if those three pieces don't line up and you make a change, you're risking throwing off the data and reporting that your analytics guy is doing or what your sales team is looking at. And it's important to keep all of that and be able to create that journey and tell that story, but for everybody to understand why and why it's important. And so when you start to lose that kind of data, you risk losing parts of the story that you could have fleshed out. And you're leaving a picture in black and white that could be a Monet.
I love that. Could be a Monet. Look at all the data that gets lost when you do things like convert leads. If you're converting a lead to a contact in Salesforce, you stand to lose some of the chatter feed that might be associated with that lead record. So that's why it's important to have tools in place that actually carry that data over and stick them in fields where you don't lose any of that data. Do you often recommend tools? And if so, which tools do you recommend for data management? RingLead. Just kidding.
But you hit the nail on the head with the lead to contact thing.
Sure.
And even with the person source, that's a big one. Because once a contact is created and pushed over, now your source is salesforce.com.
That's right.
And you lost your original lead source.
That's right.
So
that's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, that's big. And especially if you're using Marketo to queues and a contact fills out a form, becomes a lead, goes into a queue, you have a duplicate scenario.
Yep.
I mean, things can get really tricky and really complicated sometimes. RingLead is a great tool for that. It's a big thing to be able to tie all of that information together and not lose that, because you risk losing a lot of the important lead information that tells the story as the contact is created, as the opportunity is created, as the overall lifetime value of that account goes on.
It's like jumping into a novel in chapter 6.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You lose that foundation to stand on.
I would agree. One of the best practices that I give SDRs is to constantly have a report up of leads with no contact, with no activity, because marketing's job is to create leads in whatever CRM you might be using. And if you're not constantly monitoring the new stuff that's coming in, it could get backed up. It could fall through the cracks. You have no idea that it's even there to be able to start a conversation. So being able to go through and find that there's no data attached to the following leads, that means there's a lead source there that I need to be using in context of my outreach. So I tell salespeople frequently, always have this report. It should be one of the first things that you look at when you come in the morning. That report is the hot list, right? The people that you should reach out to that engaged with some marketing content yesterday, right? Hey, thanks for checking us out yesterday. So it makes sense.